Easy, because see Michelle's now summer, right?
Yeah. Naftali, are we holding on Chavtes on the Mishnah? Okay.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. And then the source of our learning, we should have this in English immediately. Okay. Mishnah says like this. It's on 29a. And maybe get Eretz Yisrael v'chala. Someone brings a get and he's in Eretz Yisrael. And he gets ill. Now, what's the difference if he's in Eretz Yisrael or not? Because outside of Israel, a person needed to say "B'fanai nechtav, b'fanai nechtam." They had to be at the writing of the get, and they had to be at the signing of the get. He's in Eretz Yisrael, so he doesn't have to be there at the writing and the signing. So here, it's very easy for him to appoint another shliach. And what happens is, I didn't finish. He got ill. The messenger got ill. So he sends it with another messenger. And it's not a problem, because if you're going to tell me that the messenger needs to say that I was there at the writing of the get and the signing of the get, that doesn't apply in Israel. It's only outside of Israel where that was necessary. What were the two reasons for Fanei Nechta? One was because they weren't careful with the Shema. They didn't know how to do the get probably. Well, in Israel, they were. What about maybe you won't be able to find witnesses later to validate? Well, it's all in Israel, and it's all the same country. You'll be able to find people are traveling in Israel. Okay.
Before we discuss this same scenario, but coming out of one courier to another.
I don't remember having one courier handing to another. I don't remember seeing that yet. It's on this page. This is the big discussion right here. Maybe it was quoted. You're right. It looks like it was quoted before. So, I was getting quite practical. He tells the messenger, he says, make sure she has my umbrella. Make sure you get my umbrella back when you give her the divorce. You know. So, then that's already a different story. Then he can't use another messenger because he doesn't want the husband doesn't want his umbrella to be in someone else's hands. He trusted you, he didn't trust the other person. That's one of the pshatim. Okay. So basically, you can make another shliach unless there's a monetary issue involved, which that could mess things up. Amar of Kana. Kana says chalatanan. You really can't make another shliach. This is a special case. This is a case where there was an inus because the shliach got sick. The shliach didn't get sick. You can't just make another shliach. You were appointed, and maybe he doesn't want someone else. Umar says, Pshita, what Rav Kana is saying is so obvious because chalak that's exactly the case of the Mishnah. The Mishnah says that he had to get, see, Rav Kana is an Amira. He's coming and explaining the Mishnah. But an explanation that we don't need, because it says it clearly, you don't have to elaborate on something that it says clearly. It says, well, that's not so clear, because Mao, the could have said, really, the Mishnah is referring to even if he doesn't get sick. And nevertheless, you can make another shliach. So why do you say sick? It was just saying the normal case. Why would a person want to make another shliach? Because he couldn't continue traveling. Otherwise, what's the problem? So Kamash Malan is coming to teach us that no, when the scenario of the Mishnah was specific, because in other cases, actually, the halacha would be different. It's only because he got sick that he was allowed, we make that exception that he can make another shliach. What was the case? If the husband tells to the shliach, to the messenger, he says, bring the get to my wife. What's the problem if he gives it to someone else? He didn't say that you should bring it. He said, it's sort of like, make sure it gets brought to my wife. Well, so what's the problem? Why does it have to be specifically if he got sick, he can do that? The husband wasn't specific about who should bring it. He just said, like, have it brought. Idar malei ataylech. If he says you should bring it, oh, that's a different story. Then even if he gets sick, maybe he shouldn't be allowed to give it to someone else because he said you. You know, people can make stipulations on a get, say that I want it to be given and with this way and that way and all of this. So he says, I want you to give it. That could be something specific that he was specified. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and if it's Reb's opinion of Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, which we didn't learn yet, then even if he got sick, he shouldn't be allowed. Why? To make another shliach. The Tanya was taught in a brayso. We're going to see what Reb Shimon ben Gamliel holds. Someone says, bring this get to my wife, or he's a mishalcha b'yadachi. You could send it with someone else. You should bring this get to my wife. Then you can't send it with someone else. Okay, that's basically what we were discussing before. However, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion is benkach ein shliach is shliach. Shimon ben Gamliel says the one shliach cannot make another shliach. So if it's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, then it should never work. You can never make another shliach. If it's the Tanakama, then it should depend on the way he said it. But no one mentioned anything about getting ill. Either he said have it brought, or he said you should bring it. But getting ill wasn't a factor in the brayso at all. Gemara gives us three answers. Answer number one: Iba Yasema Hailach. First shot is that the Mishnah says have it brought to my wife, have the get brought to my wife. However, that's only if he got ill. Otherwise, the person himself has to bring it. Not the deposit, the get. Now, the brayso doesn't mention it, so we're going to have to add that into the brayso. Brayso didn't mention anything about getting sick along the way, but that's fine. But okay, it was missing that detail. When does the brayso say that you can use another shliach? Only if he says, have it brought, which means that it's not specifying who should bring it. Then he's allowed to make another. But when is he allowed to make another shliach? Even in that case, that's only if he got sick. Even in that case, he didn't really say have it brought. He said haylachim. He says bring it. He just didn't say you should bring it. He said bring it. Okay. That's the answer number one, is that we're restricting even the brayso when he says haylech to being ill. Iba Yasema, we can do it differently. We can say ataylech, that he actually said that you should bring it. And even though he said you should bring it, which really messes everything up, because he can never use another shliach, that's only if the first shliach didn't get sick. If the first shliach did get sick, then even though he said you should bring it, he's still allowed to make someone else. Two opposite answers there. And if you want, you can even say Reb Shimon ben Gamliel v'chol hashani. If you want, you could say that it's Reb Shimon ben Gamliel that never allows a second shliach, but that's only if the first shliach didn't get sick. If the first shliach did get sick, he does allow it. Okay, so basically we can say what we're concluding here is that what Rav Kana told us is that it only applies when the shliach got sick. We have different ways of understanding this, but it could go in any direction. It could be that the husband gave the instructions that it should be brought. And even so, the only time you could use a second shliach is if the first shliach got sick. Or the husband gave the instructions that you should bring it. And even so, still, if the shliach gets sick, you're allowed to use the second. Okay, according to this way, if the husband didn't say you should bring it, then it's not necessary to say that he got sick. According to the second and third answer, the husband didn't say you, he just said bring it. So then you could always change shliach, make another shliach, even if it's not necessary. Follow? Even if it's not necessary, you can make another shliach. Okay, Tanan. Start in the Mishnah. Maybe get Beretz Yisrael. Someone brings a get in Eretz Yisrael. This is our Mishnah. V'chola, and he got sick. He could send the get with someone else. Mar says, "V'raminu, have a contradiction. Amal l'shnayim. If someone tells two people, "Nu get lishti, give a get to my wife," or to three people, he says, "Kisvu, get utenu lishti, write a get and give it to my wife." They should write it and they should give it, and they're not allowed to tell anyone else to do that. They can't give over these instructions. Inu in avol shliach loy. They have to do it. Says to two people to give it, then those are the two people that give it. Means those are I guess those are the witnesses. Yeah. If he says to three people, then those are the ones that are going to write it in the witnesses. The cipher in the witnesses. But they don't give it over to anyone, these instructions over to anyone else. They have to actually instruct the cipher and the Aiden. And two witnesses sign.
And then all three of them will deliver.
Maybe something like that. Probably the one that wrote it would deliver it in front of the two witnesses. In the case of the two, then the get was already written. New get lishti. No, that's the case of the three. In the case of the three, it's write and give. Yeah. If he told three people to give a get to my wife, and he didn't say write and give, so then the halacha would be totally different. Then they would be allowed to make another messenger. That would be considered a bestin, and the bestin can make another messenger. But it's only the individual that can't make another messenger. That's what we're learning here. So whatever the case is, we said in our Mishnah that you can make another messenger, and we have in a brisa that says that you can't make another messenger. Amar Abaya answers, over there, where did we get it from that you can't make another messenger? Because the husband said to write a get. He told them to write a get. Why did he tell them to write a get? Because he doesn't know how to write. So he was embarrassed to tell other people that he doesn't know how to write. So the husband can't spell. He can write, probably, he can't spell. He's embarrassed of his spelling mistakes. So he
Before spell check.
Yes, before spell check. So he told these two people, but the instructions were clear that it should only be them and not to someone else, because he's going to be embarrassed. But if the get was already written and it's just sending it through someone else, there's nothing embarrassing about sending a get. He didn't bring it himself. He sent it with someone. Okay, so someone else brought it. But to spread the word around that the husband can't write, and he had to use someone else to write the get, so that's already embarrassing. So that's why by the writing of the get, we see that this was an issue of making another shliach. But by the delivering of a get, there's no issue of making another shliach. That's apparently the husband we used to write his own get. That's what we see from here. Yeah.
A husband or an agent signs the get, is there a difference in which one goes about it?
And the husband, if the husband would write the get, is there any difference in it? There would probably be theoretical differences, but not. No, actually, in the language of the get, it would be. It says. Maybe it would change the tense if it's in first person or third person. Yeah. I don't remember. It's a good question. If the language of the get would be adjusted, if the husband himself writes it. If there's anything in the get that's in third person. But this, I think usually the get is in third person. It says that so-and-so on this and this day, so-and-so is divorcing his wife. He would say, it would change it to I am divorcing my wife. Probably there would be a little bit of adjustment. Okay. But it's probably one of these things that we stop doing for everyone. Just like when it comes to the Kiddushin, the blessing on the Kiddushin. We don't have, even though that's the blessing the Chassan's supposed to make. Chassan is getting married. You have some rabbi come along and say the blessing for him just because people, maybe a Chassan that doesn't know how to say the blessing and get embarrassed. We said that no one should say the blessing. We'll have the rabbi always do it.
So the get is written in third person, the tuba also.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it written in like Ashiras or anything?
Yeah, but it doesn't have the crowns or anything. So it's like a script assuras. It's a quicker assuras. Yeah. Okay, that's the answer of Abaya to answer this contradiction. He says that by the writing of the get there could be an embarrassment, and that's why you can't use a shliach. Rava says mishum demilinu. You see, when the husband gives a get to a messenger, so that messenger has something in his hand that makes him a messenger, and he takes it, he passes the baton onto someone else, so he passed it over. But if the husband says, write a get, so those are instructions that were just given to him. He's not holding anything. It's all theoretical. It's words, right? It doesn't have any, and there's nothing tangible there. So he can't pass on that sort of messengership to someone else. So it's only if you're actually holding something that you can pass it on. So that's why by the writing of the get, but there's nothing tangible there yet, he can't pass that on to someone else. But if he's holding a get, he can pass the get on to someone else. Another person will bring the get to the wife. Well, the Gemara says, "My binayo." Two interesting answers to differentiate between the writing of the get and the delivering of the get. If you can make another shliach, so what? My binayo. What's the difference between these two answers? It could be nice shliach matana. The Gemara says the difference would be if someone can give a totally different type of document over to a messenger, a document of a gift. Now, if someone wants to give a gift to whoever, and he says, write a document for this person that I'm giving them my property. So over there, the husband doesn't need to know how to write a document like that, because the one that's receiving the property is the one that's really should be the one that's getting the document written. So it was really never his obligation anyway to write that document. He just wants it given. So he tells him to write it. But when he gets there, the recipient could actually have it written and they would just sign it or whatever. So that would not be an embarrassment, but nevertheless, can they tell another messenger to write that document? So if you go like Rava, you need the shliach can only pass it on if it's something tangible. So then this is also not tangible because it was instructions to write a document. But if it's because of the embarrassment of the husband would only be embarrassed that he can't write the get, but that was something that he was supposed to write. But the gift document that he doesn't have to write. Uh-huh. That's interesting. So B'zayin the Baal, according to Hillel, is telling me Rabbeinu Hananel in the Koran, they quote Rabbeinu Hananel that B'zayin the Baal doesn't mean that he doesn't know how to write the get. B'zayin the Baal means that he was embarrassed that he was divorcing his wife. So when he's going to be fully divorced, he's fine with it. but in the whole process, he's embarrassed. So, yeah, first wife. Yeah, okay, good shot. It could be now shliach matana, but look to the Rav and Shmuel, and this would be a machlekes between Rav and Shmuel, because Rav amar matanena get. Rav says that the gift is not like a get, because the gift doesn't have the embarrassment. So that would be like Abaya, where Abaya says that by the get there's embarrassment. Shmuel says matana harehu kaget. Matana is exactly like the get. That would go like Rava. And Rava's opinion was that because it's not a tangible object, it can't be handed over to a shliach. If you were given instructions, fine, but otherwise you can't pass that on. There's nothing for you to pass on. It would have been easier to remember if Rav went like Rava, because Rav sounds like Rava, but the Gemara doesn't make it easy on us. Rav goes like Abaya and Shmuel goes like Rava. Rav and Rava. It's not. It's all random. Like it doesn't. 3 generations earlier, at least. Okay. If the husband tells, yeah, Rav is a 1st generation, and Rava should be a 4th generation. So, well. If the husband tells to the messenger, says, when you give her the get, make sure to get back my umbrella, or whatever it is. So then there's a problem with giving the get. The Gemara doesn't tell me if the problem is giving the get or the problem is with getting the umbrella back. Whatever. It says chayfetz pleni. I made up the umbrella thing. Amar Rish Lakish. Wasn't an umbrella? So what was it back then? It was his pottery. Yeah.
It's in my cake.
Right. So, pillow, right? Teddy bear. I'm Rish Lakish. So Rish Lakish says, "Kanchan Rebbe Ena Shoyel Rashayla Hashel V'Ena Sefer Rashayla Haskell." Rish Lakish tells us that Rebbe, when teaching this, he said that a borrower is not allowed to lend the object that he borrowed, and a renter is not allowed to rent out the object that he rented. Because if you rented it, you can't sublease, sub-lend or sub, because the person agreed to lend it to you. It doesn't mean he agrees for you to that his object should be in someone else's hand. So basically, what Rish Lakish is really telling us is that this has nothing to do with the get. This is totally a law that's you would find in Chesed Mishpat. Can you lend an object? You borrowed something. Can you lend it to someone else? You borrow a pen, and while you're using it, someone else says, "Can I just use that for a second?" Are you allowed to lend it? You have to say no. So you can't. The guy lent it to me, and I don't have the rights to lend it to you. Okay. Did you see that? Someone sent me from Rabbi Stefansky. Did you see that joke? This guy in Shul. This guy lost $100 in Shul. So you saw this. So he goes back to the Shul to look for. He sees there's a sign there. If anyone lost $100, call. He calls the number, and the guy says, he says, yeah. He says, yeah, I lost $100. He says, okay, nice. I'm not giving it back to you. So why not? So because in Halacha it says that the money lost in a public place, I don't have to give it back. So why do you put up a sign? He says, I wanted to say Yeshikayach. Thanks for the money.
Is money considered chefetz pleni?
Oh, I was going to ask that.
That's interesting.
Yep.
What did he ask?
Yes, Chaim is asking if money is considered chayfetz pleni. He says such an object, in my case, the umbrella. Maybe, I don't know. That's a good question.
Only if he knows.
Chayfetz pleni means a specific object. Is it because it's a item of that's sentimental, or is it because of debt? because he doesn't trust him. There's two. That's what Chaim is asking, an interesting question. And Yitzi was going to ask that question.
But then Rish Lakish won't be applied.
If it would be money, then maybe it doesn't apply. Yeah, you have it. That's a good question. You have to wait for Bab Metzia.
Us Mefuza Russ, so is it dollar bill?
Uh-huh. No, that doesn't have to do with if it's Mefusaris. That has to do with if there's a simon on it. On money, there's no simon. You can't say that was my dollar bill.
Numbers.
No, but the serial number doesn't mean that was your dollar.
How would someone know someone else's serial?
Oh no, because it gets money goes from hand to hand.
So this guy's memorized a serial number so that in the event that bill is ever found and they announce they found the bill, he's just to say, yeah, if it's serial number so.
You don't know the serial numbers, dollars in your wallet?
Yes.
No, if you buy something and you
I
gave
don't
your
know.
if you gave your money to the storekeeper, you bought something, and you hear that this money found, you think it's your money, you say your serial number from the money that you gave to someone else that went, the storekeeper gave it to someone else, doesn't mean that it's yours. It's an object that keeps getting passed around.
In the case like if you would find money when you put like a sign and then like, oh, I found some money, and then somebody comes and tells you the amount, and they kind of
In a public place,
yeah.
People think they lost it. I think it's gone. People give up.
It happened like for example,
It's a machlekes if in a Jewish public place, it's the same halacha. Apparently, according to the story, he's allowed to keep it.
I just want to repeat, I told this story once before, but I'm sure no one remembers it. Don't turn the timer on. I went to the beach with my son, Hazani, 30 years ago.
Oldest son.
30 years ago. And he was swimming with a snorkel because he thought maybe he'll find some money in the ocean. And I said, no one finds money in the ocean. And I said, what are you kidding? All of a sudden, after 5 minutes, he comes out with a $20 bill. He goes, I found $20 in the ocean. Can I keep it? I said, definitely. If anyone lost $20 in the ocean, they will wake up Miyaya shit. All right. And said, I'm never getting this back. It's like spinning in the ocean. All right. All right. We get dressed. 15 minutes later, he wants to go get something in the store. So he says, Dad, can you pay? I stick my hand in my bathing suit pocket. The $20 bill I had in there was missing.
Oh, that was good father. You let him
Wow.
find your
That's
$20.
it.
Let him find your $20.
I was, what?
Where is it?
My son found it in the ocean.
He purposely took it out so his son could find money in it. Oh, yeah. That's a good dad.
Okay.
Happy Father's Day.
Farm the ocean.
You live with it.
Very nice. So that was the Reish Lakish's opinion.
Master Shah.
Rabbi Yochanan says, "Zu afilu t'neged shel beis rabin yadinai." So Rabbi Yochanan says that everyone knows that this is halacha in Chayei Mishpat, that you can't pass anything on to someone else. If you borrowed it, you can't sub-lend it. If you rented it, you can't sublease it. However, Rabbi Yochanan adds in, sometimes this could also mess up a get. According to what we just learned, it really has nothing to do with the get. It has to do with other instructions with having an item that you don't want in someone else's hands. Why? Because you make it, if the husband would make it as if he says, only divorce her in the house. Don't, and he goes and divorces her in the attic. Only use the right hand when you give her the get. But he divorced her with the left hand. He gave it to her with his left hand. So then that would be a problem. Because if he would say, I'm only getting divorced, or you can only give the get if you get the item, then maybe the instructions were that he has to get the item and then the get's not going to be good. So it could be if he made the get dependent on him getting the item, then that would mess it up. The Gemara says, the Kuli Alma, everyone would agree. If the his instructions to the shliach were get the item and then give her the get. So the shliach went, made another shliach, right, which he was allowed to do because he was ill, and or right, whatever the situation was based on the last Gemara. And then the shliach went and he got the item, the second shliach sheni, got the item, and then gave her the get. It was exactly the instructions of the husband that the husband gave the first shliach. The second shliach did. Everything is fine. He pligi, he didn't want the item in his hands, but he did it in the correct order of the way the husband had instructed. He pligi, where would it be a machlekes? If the husband had told the first shliach, Shkol mine chayfetz, take from her the item, the umbrella, whether havlagita, and then give her the get. Vazaliyu, the shliach went, shliach sheni here. The yav lagita gave her the get, and then took the item afterwards. That's a problem. Rabbi Yochanan paisel bay v'kolshkein b'shluchei. Rabbi Yochanan would say that even if the first shliach did it like this, it would be a problem. For sure, if the second shliach did it like this, it would be a problem. Rish Lakish says that if the shliach did it, it would be kosher, because this is just has to do with the item. This is not really a condition in it, and for sure, if the first shliach does it, for sure it would be kosher. If the second shliach did it like that, then it's kosher. For sure, if the first one did it like that, it would be kosher. I explain this according to Rashi. Taisvus has a different interpretation. Taisvus says we're not talking about the shliach messing up the instructions. We were talking here about we're not talking about the second shliach messing up the instructions. We're talking about the first shliach messing up the instructions. If the first shliach does it out of order, according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's invalid. Therefore, if he has a second shliach do it, even if the second shliach does it in order, it's also invalid. That's how Taisvus says. It's also invalid. Why? Because you see that that he wants it with a specific order. If he wants it with a specific order, then even the second shliach, even using another shliach would be a problem, because you see how specific he is. According to Rashi, it was if the second shliach messed up the order, the same way the first shliach messed up the order, then that would be problematic. But not just if according to Rashi, if the second shliach did it right, it would be acceptable. According to Taisvus, if the second shliach did it right, it's also not acceptable, because we see that he was specific about the order, that the first shliach could have messed it up. Okay, there's a new Mishnah. Hamibi get from Medina Sayyam. Someone brings a get from overseas. B'chala. And he got ill. Now it's already a problem. You can't just make another shliach. Why not? Because he has to say b'fanei nechtam, b'fanei nechtam. How's he going to say b'fanei nechtam? In front of who? He has to say in front of a bezdin. So what happens is, he has to go to a bezdin. He has to say to the bezdin that I'm a shliach from the husband. I was there at the writing and the signing of the get. Then the bezdin will appoint another shliach. Then he says in front of them, he says in front of them, the second shliach, call him the shliach sheni, second shliach, he doesn't need to say in front of me it was written, because it wasn't written in front of him. All he has to say is shliach bezdinani. I'm a shliach from the bezdin, and the bezdin knows that it was done correctly, and they appointed me, so that's why I'm here.
Like having a shliach not be a witness or anything. That's okay.
I mean, the shliach, because he wasn't there at the original thing, so that's the only way to resolve this, is to say that I'm being sent by the bezdin. Otherwise, he can't say the important statement of I was there at the writing of the signing. So he has to say that.
Then how do we know if it's a forgery and all this?
So he says that I was a messenger from the bezdin, and the bezdin had examined that. The bezdin took care of the b'fanei nechtam, and they appointed me to
So you
bring
could
it.
always go and check with the base.
Right. Okay. They do today, just to make it a little practical. Let's say they want to divorce someone in, I don't know, France. The guy's over here. or South America or something. The guy's here. So he comes into the Beis Din and he tells the Sefer to write a get, tells the witnesses to sign on the get. And then after the get is written and signed, he takes the get and he hands it to another person. And he says, you should be my messenger to give this get to my wife, and you can make another messenger if you need, whatever, even if it's through the mail. Anyway, so the messenger that he appointed, this other fellow that's there, was not one of the Seifrim, was not one of the witnesses. Then he takes the letter and takes the get, and in front of the Beis Din, he says that I'm now going to appoint a messenger in Caracas to give this get to this woman, and you find out his name, the person. He says, I'm appointing him in front of you that he should be the new shliach. And they take the get, they put it in the FedEx, UPS, whatever. They send the get over there, and then over there, this shliach, the shliach sheni, takes the get and delivers it to the wife. That's how they would do it. Okay, so Amalei Rabbanan la'avimi breder Rabavo. Rabbanan say to Avimi, the son of Rabavo, boy my name Rabavo, can you please go ask your father? Rabavo sounds like a classic. For some reason they don't want to ask. Shliach de shliach, mashvi shliach eloi. Can a second messenger make a third messenger? Can a shliach sheni make a shliach shlishi? Second, third. Amalahu, he says to them, that should not be a question for you. I'm not asking. Basically, I know the answer already. Midiktani, it says, it says the last shliach does not need to say, why did it say the last shliach? Say the second shliach. The last means that there may be more than one. See, second shliach can make a third shliach because of the term the last. Why do you say the last? Obviously, you can make another shliach. But if you have a question, I'll tell you what question you really should have asked. Since only the first shliach was the one that was reciting, was proclaiming that had to be done in a Beis Din. Second shliach just says, I'm a messenger of the Beis Din. Third shliach could say, I'm a messenger of the Beis Din. I'm also a messenger of the Beis Din, but he doesn't need to be in the Beis Din to do that. Or maybe not. I'm relay, so they said, we don't have a question about that. Because it says, it says I'm a shliach Beis Din. So obviously it has to be done in the Beis Din. Okay, that's what he has to say. He has to say I'm a messenger of the Beis Din. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Masni Achi. Rav Nachman Yitzchak had the same story with the Rabavo and Avimi, Rabavo's son, and the sages. The only thing is he has it the opposite order. He said it like this. The sages said to Avimi, the son of Rabavo, boy, my name Rabavo, go ask your father. Shliach the shliach. When a second shliach, when he makes a third shliach, does he have to do it in the Beis Din or not in the Beis Din? Amalahu. So he says back to them, this is Avimi. He says, you should ask if he's allowed to make a shliach at all. How do you know a second shliach can make a third shliach? They said to him, that wasn't a question. Because it uses the word the last shliach, does not need to say, it says the last. Why did it say the last? It should say the second. Mechlal, the shliach, mashu shliach, obviously there could be a last, there could be a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, say up until 100. What was our question? Beis Din or shalei beis Din? We had a question if it should be done in Beis Din. That's a valid question. So Amalahu. So Avimi says back to them, that's not a good question either. You should not ask that question. Diktani, because it says in the Mishnah, he says that I'm a shliach in the Beis Din. Obviously, it has to be done in the Beis Din. They wanted him to ask a question. He tells them you should have asked a better question. They said that's not a better question, that's a worse question. So he tells them back, your question is also not a good question. Okay. Yeah. And what it really sounds like is that he doesn't want to bother his father. Amar Rabba. Rabba says, Shliach be'eretz Yisrael is a kamer shluchim. In Eretz Yisrael, you can make a lot of shluchim. Because you don't have to say b'fanei nechtav. You can just make a shliach sheni. Easy. Shliach sheni, shlishi. Doesn't have to be done in Bezdin because there's no proclamation that you need to say when you're delivering the get. Amar Ravashi says in Meis Rishon Batlu Kulan, if the first shliach dies, then all the shluchim after him, it's like dominoes. They all topple. They all fall over because they're all a messenger of the first shliach. When is it? No, then it won't matter because each one has to go back to Bezdin to get a new one, to become appointed by the Bezdin. Yeah.
Where did we learn previously? I gave the share, but I don't remember. What was it?
It's about Tuma. It's about Rishon Sheni Shlishi.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't in Gittin. What was the last Masech before this? Was it Saita? Saita. It was in Saita. We had a big discussion in Saita about Tuma.
Go back, look at the tapes.
What?
Look at the tapes, go back.
Yeah, you can.
What good is it if I taught it, nobody remembers?
You can swipe the YouTube and see where your face is there. The one with the most clicks. Well, Amar Mar Baravashi says, Hada Abba, that statement my father made that said that if the first shliach dies, then all the other shluchim are nullified. It says, he was young when he said that. Ilu Meis Baal, if the husband would die, then is there anything substantial there? Who do they all come from? The Baal Kasa, they all come from the husband. But Isa Labal, listen Lakula, if the husband's there, then good. Less Labal, if there's no husband, then less Lakula, then there's no messenger. You can't do that. But when they appoint a new shliach, according to Mar Baravashi, they're not all dependent on the shliach before them. They're really all going back to the husband. And really the only significant person here is the husband.
So there's no domino?
There's no domino effect. It's one domino with all the other shluchim are lined up like that. And each one that falls down doesn't affect the next one. They're all lined up side by side.
Passes away, like while the get is being delivered.
That's no get. Becomes a better, yeah.
You don't get the game.
We learned before that he's presumed alive.
We presumed alive, right? But if we know that he died, then yeah.
So he would.
You get it?
So he would give the get to a messenger, would say, I'm going to appoint you as the agent to send the get on my behalf. Okay.
Messenger goes.
Yeah. The messenger passes away and someone else finds him and says, oh, I kind of want to
No.
take this get.
The messenger doesn't pass away yet. The messenger gets sick and says, I can't do it. The message, can you continue with it?
Right.
Then the messenger dies. After there's a second messenger appointed, third messenger appointed already. So, or a second messenger appointed. So then we said, Ravashi said that the old messenger, the third one and the second one is nullified. Marbar Ravashi said he's not. Okay. Who Gavra was a person, the Shadlu Gita Lidabissa, sent to get to his wife. And Amar Shliach, the Shliach says, I don't know who your wife is. The Hasidic guy, you never saw a woman, doesn't know who she is. They'll look the same. Amar Lei, so he said, the husband said to her, give it to Abba Bar Minyumi. He knows who she is. And go and give it to, and he'll go and give it to her. Asa, he went. He didn't find Abba Bar Minyumi. He goes and he finds this triumvirate. Was that those three? The word triumvirate. He finds the three sages: Rabavo, Rab Chanina Bar Papa, and Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha is sitting over there, and Rabbi Safra is on the side. He's sitting amongst them. Amrlei. So he couldn't find Abba Bar Minyumi, who's supposed to be the next shliach. Amrlei Masar Milach Kami Didan. We're like a bezdin. So say what you pass it over to us. The chiyaisi Abba bar minyumin esfinale v'lesfinala. When Abba bar minyumin comes, we'll pass the message on to him, and then he'll give the get to the wife. Amar Rav Safra. Rav Safra says, this is not a real shliach. He wasn't a shliach to divorce the wife. He was just a shliach to give the get to someone that's going to divorce the wife. There's nothing to pass on. He can't be a shliach that's making a shliach to divorce the wife. It's a different sort of shliachas here. It's a shliach to pass it.
He was FedEx.
To pass it to someone else. The chasifu, they got embarrassed because apparently Rav Safra was correct.
Now you know the rest of the story about Safra.
Well, what's the real issue here? Apparently, if he's a shliach to divorce, then he replaces the husband. If he's a shliach to divorce, he replaces the husband, then he can appoint someone else to replace the husband. But if he's not a shliach to divorce, then he's really just a courier. It's not really in the position of the husband to appoint someone else. Well, Amar Rava says, Rav Safra like chopped off the feet of the how do they translate? Undercut. The three rabbis that had smicha. Amar Rav Ashi says, what are you talking about that he undercut them? Did he say that Abba bar minyumi has to be the one and not you? The truth is that when he told him, he says, you give the get. He just complained. He says, I don't know who she is. So then he said, okay, fine, so give it to someone else. But he doesn't mind if he would give the get. He could also give the get. That's the case. He's in place of the husband. In place of the husband, he can appoint someone else. Those that said this a little different. Rava said that he Rav Safra undercut all of them by making a mistake. It really was a whole mistake. Amar Rav Ashi says no, he didn't make a mistake. Mika Amalei, did he say to him, Mika Amalei, what did he say to him? It wasn't a mistake. It was correct. The two versions of this, how this concludes over here. According to this version, Rav Ashi was saying that no, Rav Safra was saying that only Abba bar minyumin can give it, and not you, because that was his final instructions. Okay, let's leave it over here.
What happens if the shliach, who's a good shliach, who's taking the place of the husband, gives the get, but at the moment he gives the get, he falls drastically in love with the woman?